Okay. Well, gentlemen, welcome to our September 2023 St. Paul Speaker Series podcasts. And this is the end of the month program I would do to discuss development issues, to discuss pertinent issues to alumni group and to the country as well. So our speaker today is a very experienced manager in different sectors. She has over 20 years experience in mining, in manufacturing, telecoms, and also the financial sector. Areas of specialization include transformation and leadership and team development and strategic resourcing, as well as creating high performance cultures, which is part of what we'll be discussing today. She's been involved in a lot of initiatives during her career, for example, acquisitions and integrations, performance management, implementation, and then entrenchment in organizations, and also job evaluations and company restructuring. She also has extensive experience working with trade unions and in collective bargaining negotiations. And she has more specialties, actually. For example, human resource analytics, strategic resourcing, of course, and then change management and compensation. She comes to this space with obviously a lot of education. I'm going to talk about that. She has a master's in economics from University of Warwick in the United Kingdom, and a BSc in economics also from the UK at the University of London, and another master's degree in consulting and coaching for change from HEC in Paris. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Chimango Chikwanda, who's currently the Director of People Function at one of the biggest banks in Zambia called ABSA. So Ms. Chimango, please, the floor is yours. The people that in this podcast today, my colleagues and friends from St. Paul Secondary School, which is in Mulungushi in Kabwe. And like I said, pre-recording, I was saying that these events are used to help us network, to share information amongst ourselves, and to get that information for the purpose of making improvements to our persons and also to the country called Zambia. So we have a bigger goal as St. Paul's alumni to just help each other. So you're most welcome to our podcast, and please take it away.
Thank you so much, Doc, and thank you so much for this honor, inviting me to speak to the learned group. It's very humbling, and I don't take it lightly. I know that this group knows a lot more than I do in many other areas. So I do really feel privileged for you for inviting me here. It's also a very inspiring thing that you're doing as a group, to meet and to seek information and to also educate one another. It's something that we don't do enough, I think, as a society and as a country. We meet socially, but we don't take time out to learn from one another, which is really an important thing to do, to continuously learn. So I've taken a leaf, and it is something that I will steal with pride from my social groups that I have, the various social groups that I do have. So thank you very much. If you'll allow me, I'll share my screen. I hope I'm able to share my screen. I hope I'll be able to do it. I don't often use Zoom. Let me see if I can do it. I'm more accustomed to Teams, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. I don't know if you can see my...
Yeah, it's working.
Perfect. Now if I can do full screen. It's usually, oh, there we go. Okay, can you see the full screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I've been in the human resources field for nearly 30 years. It's 30 years actually, and that really exposes my age. I sometimes feel embarrassed to tell people I've been working for 30 years. So it's a very long time, and I think after working for 30 years, I can tell people I'm an expert in human resources. Now I can confidently tell people that. I didn't go into human resources willingly. I went in actually kicking and screaming. I was sponsored by ZCCM those days of the mines, and I actually studied economics, and I'd wanted to go into finance when I completed as an economist. But when I came back, I was straight off the plane. I was literally shipped off to Mufalira, put on a minibus. My sister, who was in Luancha division, got on a minibus with me, and it was those little blue minibuses those days. Landed in Muflira, went to the welfare office, reported, and started work. And I was put into HR and reported to, I believe my first station was mining that time, HR mining. And I was devastated because that is not where I wanted to be. And, despite my best efforts, that's where I stayed. I went to plead with Mr. Paf Mohamkoma. I'm not supposed to be in HR. I'm supposed to be in finance. And he said, well, this is where you're going to be. And that is where I stayed. And I think one of my tasks was to ensure that the miners got their hot chocolate and their kampompo. That was one of my tasks, overseeing that. One thing that I did appreciate from that was the wellness offering that ZCCM made to their employees. I benefited from their canteen. We had free meals every day. The miners had free meals every day. I also got the benefit of observing, I think those in the concentrator got free milk to ensure that their teeth didn't fall out. They also had amazing sporting facilities as well for colleagues and also for their children as well. There was a fantastic sporting facilities. There was soccer, rugby grounds, cricket, you name it. They had beautiful facilities for staff. They had also welfare. Did a stint in welfare where they had counseling, marital counseling, even for colleagues, for employees. There were situations where they had financial counseling for minors. We had situations where you had minors who would get paid, then disappear for 4 days, come back after having spent all their money, and then for the remainder of the month, they would have to subsist on the little money that the wife would have made selling tomatoes with the little money that she'd managed to extract from the husband during the time that he'd been paid. And so they would have to do financial counseling, and then they'd line up, the wife this side, the husband this side, she would get 50% of the salary and so on. Then they'd start counseling the husband on how to manage money and so on, and they'll do financial counseling, all those good things that wellness is about, financial management and so on. But as privatization happened, companies and the world decided that that's not the company's business to do that. That's the employee's business. The company has no business. The workplace is not a place to get involved in those things. Employees need to sort themselves out. They need to, decide on how they manage their own money, how they manage their marital problems. It's not the company's, position to get involved in the physical wellness of employees. Companies, at best, if they get involved, is to do with productivity, but it's not for the companies to be involved with the mental, physical well-being of colleagues. So all those things were stopped. Even here in Lusaka, we had the Barclays Sports Center. We stopped funding it, and that's where our new head office has been built now. NABSA Sports Center, so some of the parastatals maintain some of the facilities, but maintain them to a pretty low standard. If you go to them now, they're pretty run down. They're not really looked after. But all other organizations have pretty much stopped funding those facilities, which were intended for employee welfare. So companies really cut spending towards wellness because it was decided that the workplace is for work. Wellness is the employee's responsibility, and they stopped all those things. It's just really, again, the parastatals and maybe some of the mines that have football teams. Zanaco has managed to maintain the football team, but they run it separately, and they encourage them to find their own funding to a certain extent as well. So there's minimal funding, for the football teams and some of the other things that they do, but they're not really for employees. They run them as separate clubs. So that's been the state of wellness pretty much up until to date. However, as with the world of HR and the world of corporates, we've started to see a full circle coming around that. And we've seen over the last few years, the Google campus. Google has come back and has said, we've got this great idea. We think that if we introduce wellness, people will be more productive. If we invest in these campuses where, we invest in people's physical fitness, we invest in people's mental fitness, people will be much more productive and they'll do better and they'll perform better. And it's this great idea that we at Google have just come up with. But because us dinosaurs have been there for all these years, we've seen this story before. So we're saying, actually, this isn't a new thing. This is something that was there. Even in Zambia, we had this concept, a long time ago, and we've lived it, and we've actually done this, and we've seen the movie. It's not a new thing, actually, and it was thrown out with the baby. And it's unfortunate because the last 30 years have been a very, very hard time of transition and hardship for a lot of people, in the corporate world. A lot of time of psychological and mental hardship, especially for employees who've had to deal with a lot of change and transition without any support whatsoever. But corporates are beginning to understand the importance of institutionalizing and operationalizing wellness again. I must say, from my personal experience as an HR practitioner, as an HR director responsible for this aspect of the HR strategy, this wellness, and wellness has always been part of the HR strategy. I've also changed. My wellness journey has changed over the decades. The leaning of where I am in terms of wellness has changed. I was privileged to have worked for SAB Miller. SAB Miller was way ahead in terms of thinking as an organization. It was way ahead, and it placed the same level of importance on human capital as with any of the other critical assets that it had in the organization. As an organization, it believed that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, and demanded of HR to identify key matrices which could inform the strategy, the HR strategy, and could be measured for efficacy. So nothing fancy. It's not fancy measures or matrices that people think when you're looking at these measures. But the key productivity measures were things like sick days. They looked at sick days every single day. So they looked at sick days per the organization, per department, per function, per unit, per manager. So for example, they'll say, we've got 4 forklift drivers for the whole distribution hall. If one forklift driver does not work, it means a quarter of our beer distribution is not going to go out that day. And that impacts our revenue for that day. So if one forklift driver is off sick on that day, it significantly impacts our revenues on that day. So if that forklift driver is consistently sick, we want to know why. If the brew house has a higher number of sick days than any other department, we want to know why. Is it a genuine illness? Are they stressed? Is the manager struggling? Does the manager need support? Do we need training for that manager? Is it a new manager? So it was that level of interest, but it was productivity driven. They wanted to understand what is causing that the impact on productivity. And it was that level of management of wellness that they focused on to ensure that productivity was not impacted. They also had an on-site clinic, which meant that they had access to information on illnesses. So they would look at the 5 top illnesses and then target interventions on dealing with these. And these targeted interventions, for example, would be, when I was there at the time, it was typically things like bronchial infections. Sorry, I've spelled infections wrong. Bronchial infections were typically the most common. And those were things like the pneumonias, the TBs. Those were typically the most common, frequent illnesses. Then, of course, malaria, blood pressure, diabetes, and finally HIV. So it was never what we thought. And because of that, we were able to target those and address them. We were able to do things like do HIV testing on site, bring the HIV on site, which resulted in us increasing the number of people who knew their status, and then us being able to deal with the treatment early, which reduced the number of sick days. So very proactive way of dealing with illnesses, which reduced the number of sick days and increased productivity. So it was very targeted, and it had a huge impact on productivity as a consequence. So that was my thinking, always to see how can we improve productivity. However, over the years, my focus has changed on this, and it's changed due to a number of incidences that have happened. I've sort of realized that over the years, as leaders, and all of us here are leaders, I think looking at this sort of age profile on this talk, all of us are leaders. We've got such a power to transform the workplace into a positive place to work. We spend so much time in the workplace that it's a missed opportunity if we don't transform it as to be somewhere where people can actually thrive and enjoy to work. And that's how I approach and look at wellness now, not just about productivity, but a happy place, creating a happy place for people to work. And that's why my focus has moved a lot more to physical wellness, financial wellness, mental wellness as well for colleagues. And all my programs have been focused increasingly on that, creating a safe place to work, a creative place to work, and an empowering place to work. And a lot of the initiatives that I've introduced, because I can, given my seniority, and given my seniority, and also given my the sort of the goodwill that you've been able to develop in the organization, people trust you to be able to recommend things that will have a high impact on the organization. Recently, a few years ago, I visited an outlet of an organization I was working for, and what I tried to do is I tried to speak to the colleagues individually. And after speaking to a number of colleagues, I decided to go for lunch at the hotel. It was out of town, and I went for lunch. And when I went for lunch, a gentleman called me, and he was a bit older, about my age, called me, and I hadn't met him before. And he was saying, "You've left already, you've left. I wanted to talk to you." And I said, "Don't worry, I'm coming back." And I wasn't going to go back. But because he sounded so anxious, I decided to go back. So I did go back. And when I went back, he started talking. I said, "Oh, I'm here. We can start chatting." And we started chatting, and he started talking about his wife. and said, "Oh, my wife, she runs like you. I used to run many years ago. I used to run. She runs like you. She reminds me of you." And he started talking. She was very strong, and he was, mature, but my age, maybe even a little bit older. And then he says, "Unfortunately, she's sick. She's been diagnosed with cancer." So I said, "Oh, I'm very sorry." And then in the middle of our discussion, this gentleman started crying. And not only was he crying, he was wailing. And and that was my first time meeting this gentleman. It really made me realize that there was a lot more that organizations can do, especially for male colleagues, to give them support in the workplace. This gentleman had not spoken to anybody in the workplace. They had no idea that his wife was even sick. And it was at that point that I insisted, not just because of this gentleman, there were other things that were happening in the organization, but that was the final decider for me to bring in a full-time psychologist into the organization to provide support to members of staff. And when we got the individual to come in to provide support, I told them, please, can you make sure that as you do your visits, you speak to this individual one-on-one to provide support. And they did. They were able to engage and give this individual support. So those are some of the high leverage sort of initiatives that we can do to ensure that the workplace is a safe and workplace and an empowering workplace as well. Some other high leverage actions that I've been able to push for are things like having free lunches. We've got a canteen. I pushed and motivated for free lunch for 1 month when we moved to our new office. I got pushback, believe it or not, but I said, look, if our head office can allow for free lunch, why can't we? Where people are moving to a new office, it's expensive, people don't have money, the economy is so tough. I pushed for free shuttle service between arcades and our new office. I didn't get that over the line, but again, it's a new office. People are still getting their bearings. Why not? Just things that are high impact, but really show people that that they're going through struggles and that the organization cares and recognizes that, and it doesn't cost the organization a lot, but it means a lot. And those are some of the things that we all have power to do. Yes, you can do things purely for productivity, but what I find is that when you do that, it's transactional. But if you want people to go the extra mile, if you want people to really, feel that the organization belongs to them, you also need to go the extra mile. And that is what I believe wellness is. And that's what makes wellness a game changer, an enduring advantage for organizations. And that's how I believe you operationalize and institutionalize wellness. Thanks very much. That's me done.
Yes, this was really, really nice. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is really, really nice. I enjoyed the talk and the insights that you gave, and just the very high level, approach that you take to wellness in the organization. There's going to be a lot of questions here about, the specifics, but I also want to say that, we really appreciate you coming and sharing these insights with us. And I like the background that you gave, and the example of ZCCM. In the chat, Chalo did post something about ZCCM having been way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
yeah, in the way they approach wellness. I mean, we all grew up during that time when they were very strong in making sure that the employees were taken care of in different ways.
Yes.
He did mention that Vashmine, they love akampompo. What's akampompo?
It's a bun.
Oh,
It's a
like
bun. Yeah.
like the longish ones.
Yeah, it looks like a helmet. It's a bun, but it looks like a helmet.
Oh, is that right? So what did they eat that with? Like Fanta?
No, they had it with hot chocolate.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, they had it with hot chocolate, lots of sugar.
That's nice. Okay. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so he put that in the chat because Chalo is also a mine guy. He's still mining and he's also in Pelembe like you. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
But you also mentioned just the importance of human resource analytics and
yeah,
measuring of sick days as as a yardstick. But
yeah,
I was very impressed with what SAB did and what you were able to accomplish in that organization to reduce number of sick days as a metric uh,
yeah.
with the different things. And I wonder if more organizations can actually do that with the on-site clinic, and then with your idea to bring in a psychologist close by to people. One of the things I liked is how um, you gave the story of the gentleman that had a wife that was ill. One of the things we've discovered, just talking amongst ourselves as alumni, and also in a talk we had last month, is that men can be invisible,
Yeah.
because we are socialized to not complain and not to talk too much about this and that. So we internalize a lot of things, and it shows how quickly men die,
Mm.
with stress-related illnesses and so forth. So the approach you've taken is really commendable and so forth. Also, just the inconveniences that people have to go find like food and transportation to places like where you guys are. It's kind of like this. You go behind
Yes.
arcades and whatnot, and it might not be easy to get there. So the free
Mm.
shuttle is a great initiative. It's going to definitely help. But before I open the questions and let other guys talk, I would like to say that so my father used to work for Barclays Bank and for a long time, for 30 years. And I also worked there for a year, actually. I was in personnel department
Oh,
at at
oh,
Kafir House.
oh,
Yes, yes, I worked there, and my boss was Dr. Walyangandu at one point, and Mr.
oh,
Diksha.
wow.
Yeah, those guys. And what used to happen is every day after work, we would go to the Barclays Bank Sports Center on this big bus, the blue bus. It was a Ashok bus, Airland Ashok. And I used to play table tennis. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but one memorable thing, and I'll stop talking, I talk too much all the time. One memorable thing was that my dad told me after I finished Form 5, he said, you're going to start drinking. But before you start drinking with people that we don't know, I'm going to take you and, I'll give you a beer. So he took me to Barclays Bank Sports Club and he sat me in a corner and he sat at a bar with some friends. And he told the guy who was selling, his name was Mr. Tembo. He said, Tembo, mpele kwa bwa la ule mwana wa." And they brought me a Mossy and I drank it. And the rest is history. So that's my memory with my old man, with Barclays Bank Sports Club. But yeah, so anyways, I'll just let the other guys take it over. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. Please go ahead and ask Ms. Chikwanda some questions.
Since you already called me out, Prof, I'll go ahead and start.
Absolutely.
First of all, it's very, very commendable. For me, I get amazed every time I hear some of the ZCCM stories because um, much as you can, um, track the history of our country from political change, you can also track it from the point of view of the end of ZCCM and how the copper belt just declined at the end of ZCCM because ZCCM was not just a mining company, it was a social driver because of just the social amenities that it provided in the towns that it was active in. Just, everything from healthcare, sports, schools, and even just general cleanliness of the towns. And so for me, when I hear those stories, I wonder why sometimes as a country we struggle with um, getting over the hump, if you will, because we already have a blueprint of what works. I mean, we have 10,000 workshops that people go to attend to figure out how to clean our cities or how to improve sports infrastructure. When we have a template, we created the template. So I wonder how much engagement do you see from other companies in trying to uh, adopt these initiatives of wellness, not just for the employees in the workplace, but even just in the communities that they exist in? Thank you.
The uptake is so slow. I mean, I remember coming from the UK and moving to Muflira, and I just thought it was like a magical little town. It was so beautiful. When you'd walk down the streets, they were symmetrical, the gardens were kept. It was such a beautiful town, even when you went into like the second class, and, it was just beautiful. And then when I went back as KCM, I worked for KCM 5 years ago. It was heartbreaking, really, really heartbreaking to see what the towns had become. And I did go to Muflira just to see it about the same time. But you can, like you say, the template is still there. You can still see that, it's just a matter of us, just doing it because people still know what needs to be done. But the uptake is very slow. We have had some people asking us at ABSA, how do you do this? How do you do that? But I think people aren't yet convinced that you need to invest in wellness, that you need to invest in people. And we had a concert over the weekend. We invited Joe Maps to come and perform. And we also launched our cash incentive scheme for members of staff. And we had central bank come and participate in our press briefing. And the representative from the central bank was saying, coming out of COVID, people are still in survival mode. They're still scared to invest in people. And so I think there's still that fear. The macros, people are not convinced that the macros are coming right. So they're still not prepared to invest in people yet. So I think it's still slow. But it's a chicken and an egg. If you don't invest in people, the people are not going to invest in you. So it's a chicken and an egg. You have to invest in your people. When we were going through COVID, we were investing in our people and we had the best results that we've ever had. We continued rather to invest in our people. And during that period, we had the best results that we've ever had as ABSA during that COVID period. You have to continue investing in people. Yeah. But yeah, we have the blueprint. You're right. We have the blueprint.
Yep, that was a good observation and question, Charlie. Any other questions? So before somebody else comes in, I'm sure they're trying to think of something to ask. So my question was rather observation and question. A lot of people think of HR as more like punitive, like where you go to get remanded for not meeting, specific goals in the organization and so forth. So how do you guys how do you make a balance between that role and also being creating a happy place?
I think it's about trust. It's about creating trust. It's about creating trust and also about creating empowerment as well. It's about creating an environment where people feel that they're being empowered. A lot of people who I've who've been on, like, say, graduate training programs, for example, that I've worked with are now MDs, CFOs.
Oh, nice.
Sorry?
I said nice.
Yeah,
That's
and I've
good.
had some CEOs call me to say, Chimango, I'm so grateful that you're part of my journey, yeah, and that's really fulfilling. That's really fulfilling to know that, and many people. So it's not just about being the person who delivers the dismissal. It's about what other offerings are you offering as a people function. To be spiteful, the people at ABSA call me the PF sometimes. People function, they call me the PF when they want to be mean to me. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what they call me sometimes. I don't want to be mean, but yeah. But it's about what other offerings you offer, and there's so many other things that we offer as a people function. There's development, there's training, there's a whole range of things, succession planning. There's a whole wealth of things. That's just a small part of our role that we offer. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you had your maps, you invited your maps to come and perform for your people, and that made me very jealous because yeah, my wife went to his concert at East Park, I believe, in June.
Yes. Yeah.
And she just loved it. And I bought his album. I love his music. Yeah. I do sorry, no, that's not ours. No.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah, so I like his songs. Try Again and Samson. Samson.
He was amazing.
He was, yeah. So the question about that though is that program scalable? Can it be done in like outside Lusaka, where you have branches?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're thinking of maybe doing it in Kitwe, because we do have that's our second biggest branch. So we are thinking of doing it in Kitwe next, and then the other couple of branches can come. So it is something that we're thinking of doing. How can we get the other branches to also enjoy the same? Our biggest number of employees is in Lusaka. We're about 500 in Lusaka out of 780. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So most everybody is over there then.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have like 7 minutes here. Before we let you go, but there was that beautiful story about the young lady from Mukushi
Yes,
that went to run a marathon.
Tiza, I met her. Yeah, she's amazing. She's it just shows you the amount of talent we have in the country. It's just incredible. We couldn't believe it. Yeah, so we're happy to have been part of her journey.
Right. Yeah, I was very happy that your bank was very involved in making sure that she achieved her dreams, and we wish her the best, going forward.
Thank you. You'll be hearing more about her.
Sorry?
You'll be hearing more about her.
Oh yeah. What's she planning to do?
Well, we'll be taking her on, and ZAF has also said that they want to train with her, so she'll be part of the sports team. So you'll be hearing some announcements coming up soon. Trade Kings also want to sponsor her as well. So we'll be making some announcements soon.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, that's wonderful. I think Lighton was about to say something. Lighton, were you going to say something? Yeah, you're saying something, but we can't hear you. I think you have your AirPods on. He's taking the AirPods off now. Oh. You can use sign language, which I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we can't hear Lighton.
Chipataman is on mute. He needs to unmute himself.
Yes, unmute himself.
Yeah.
Well, this Chipataman is figuring out this technology. I have another question. One of the things that I've observed, even in the US, working for a mining company, is from a corporate level, you have these great initiatives, especially, where wellness is concerned, and mindfulness is another big word being thrown around these days too. But when you get down to the site level, right, where the actual mining is taking place, because the approach is everyone is moving, everybody's doing work, everybody's doing all these things. It's like, the initiative is big at the top level, but when it gets down to, you have managers that are pushing their employees to deliver. And yes, we'll have a poster on the wall that talks about wellness and all these things, but in as far as actual implementation, you don't see a lot of that being implemented in the workplace, because we are on the ground, as the common phrase is, and people have to work and do all these things. So how do you, as a company, make sure that the practices or the things that are being done at a high level make it all the way down to the little guy, if you will? Because a lot of times you have these supervisors that are old school, if you will, that, hey, when you show up to work, you have to work. I don't have time for ABCD and ABCD. And so they're pushing the guys to produce, and rightfully so. They need to be productive, right? But at the same time, if management is preaching one story at a high level, and then the guys on the ground, the lower tier managers, are pushing the guys to produce, because that is how they're judged. How do you bridge that gap to make sure that the message being preached at the top is the same one that is being practiced at the bottom?
No, that's what keeps me up, Chalwe, as well, because it's for us, it's the branches. What I do at least once a year, I try to visit every single branch that we have. And when I go into those branches, you tell people no, they need to rest and so on. From the time they start working at 7:30 until the time that they knock off at 16:30, they don't sit. They're moving around. They don't even eat. They don't have time. And no matter what you say, no, they need to rest, they need to eat, they're supervised. They've got clients, and they need to serve their clients. And for me, that's a huge issue, and it's an issue that I haven't yet been able to resolve. So I hear you. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like the miners, But then again, it's about trying to find what is important to them and what is wellness to them. Which is why things like, for us, the SEO maps was so important, because for them, that was wellness. And when we had the Yo maps, when we saw their faces, how happy they were when Yo maps pitched up, I tried to stand in the front. I mean, I was literally thrown out of the way by, the tellers, they literally were elbowing me out of the way. They were so happy, and we did this thing for them and trying to identify what it is that resonates with them. So those are the things, trying to identify for them what it is that they're passionate about, what it is that makes them happy, what it is that they find rewarding. Like this year as well, we tripled their bonus. We implemented a new bonus structure, which meant that their bonus was tripled for the first time. They had meaningful bonuses. So it's things like that. And it's about identifying, things that are important, and what wellness means to them. So I hear you, and that's what also keeps me up as well. I know what you're talking about.
Awesome. We have a question from Mr. Kambwamba. Please go ahead, Mr. Kambwamba.
Thank you and good afternoon. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Clearly, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I know the discussion is on wellness in the workplace, but I thought came to me, and I thought I should just ask. Employees are as important as your customers or your clients. Is there anything that you are doing to also have a healthy clientele as you look at your employees being in good shape for purpose of productivity? Is there anything that you are doing also to your customers? I don't know how you have grouped your customers. There are certain customers, obviously, that you think if this one goes, we are hugely affected, while others, even if they go, sometimes you may not be affected. Is there anything, a program that promotes the wellness of your clients as well? Thank you.
Are you local, Mr. Kambwamba?
I am in Jalala as I am speaking to you now.
I hope you joined us for the marathon.
I missed that one. Sorry, yeah, but
I'll
yeah.
make sure for the next one that I enroll you, and we'll start practicing for training rather. So we do have our ABSA marathon. This one was our biggest marathon that we've had. It was oversubscribed. We had to open twice. I think we had 4,000 runners this time. It's the biggest marathon in Zambia, and we plan on going even bigger next year. And we also plan on doing other towns as well. So it's not just Lusaka. So that is something that we are we're planning on doing as a flagship as ABSA, just to encourage our clients to keep well, to keep moving. Some clients didn't even run. Some people just walked, and they just walked 5 kilometers. But it's really just to encourage wellness and to keep well. So yes, that is something that we're pushing quite hard for our clients. I'll make sure to look you up next year.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to that event.
So did you give prizes for the marathon?
We did. For our lady, she got 20,000 kwacha.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she did. She got 20,000. So we also gave her financial fitness training as well, and we're going to help her manage her funds.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay.
Right?
Well, there's a lot
Yeah.
of runners in our group here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some are casual runners, others are serious runners, and we're all over the map on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you need to include yourself in that, Mukanda.
Yes, no, I do want to brag, but I do run.
You can do virtual. You can run virtually as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I just post my stats, huh?
Yeah, you can run virtually.
Okay. Yeah, I should do that next time. Maybe I can win like a 20 pin.
Yeah.
There's a raised hand from Mr. Lumbama. Onward, please go ahead. Mr. Lumbama, you go ahead and ask your question. You're still muted. You're still muted, Onward. Go ahead and ask your question. What's going on? Huh? Oh, I think even
I think maybe one last thing I can say is that one thing that's really helped us as ABSA is that we're 50-50. And one thing, gender, male and female. And I think what has helped is that a lot of men find it safer to express themselves because there are a lot more women. That's what I've seen as a catalyst. We had psychiatrists come in to speak to the female members of staff, but we opened it up to the men as well. We said men can also join. And we had a lot of men join, and they were just as vocal as the women. And they were saying that they also wanted, one for men also, so that they could also come in and participate. So we found that that's been very useful for us. For the gentlemen as well. So I'd really encourage this group as well, to open up to that sort of sessions if you haven't already, with the psychologists or psychiatrists to come and speak about mental health, especially as Movember comes up. I'd really encourage to have a talk on mental health, especially as we see an increase in male suicides in this age group in particular. And a lot of it is driven by financial issues in this age group, and they're professionals, a lot of professional men. When we did have a psychiatrist working with us, the majority of the people who went to see her for one-on-one sessions were male colleagues. So I think that's another thing as well. So I'd really maybe just encourage it as a thought that perhaps for November, it might be something for your consideration. Yeah.
Oh, that's a fantastic one. So yeah, we've had 1 hour with you discussing your insights and giving us tips on what to do going forward. And your last point is really apt. I think we should really follow that and find somebody to come and talk to us. So unless there are any very last minutes questions, I would say that on behalf of our St. Paul's alumni, we really appreciate your generosity of time, your expertise, and your insights into something that should be on everybody's mind at this point. But it's not, and you've told us what the constraints might be, from resources and to just culture issues in terms of management culture. But it seems like you guys are making it work right now. So we hope that's become sustainable and scalable with other organizations, they take a leaf. And I really like how you tied, the background, the historical background of some of the corporations we had in Zambia and the auxiliary benefits that came out of that, with Vashmine, they ended up having very healthy children and, just very clean homes and that kind of thing. And the dismantling of that wellness aspect, I think, ended up having unintended consequences and so forth. So maybe we can get back to that at some point as a country. But we really, really appreciate this, Ms. Chikwanda, and we wish you guys at your organization the best going forward. And thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's Friday in Jakarta, so go have some wine and all the best.
Thank you, and you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Cheers.
Okay.
So, gentlemen, our speaker is gone, and I think it was a great talk, Chalo. You're right. So we'll post the video here.
I'm happy to see. I'm assuming this is Ngandwe Kapaya. I'm happy to see Ngandwe Kapaya attending